I'm Teresa. Standing in my quiet kitchen, the soft glow of the morning light filters through the window, casting a gentle sheen over the countertop. The only sound is the rhythmic drip of hot water into my ceramic mug, a soothing backdrop to the storm that has just passed in my life. I look down at my phone, the screen still displaying the photo that arrived half an hour ago. There's my soon-to-be ex-husband, Victor, on a plane at the airport, his arm wrapped around his 25-year-old assistant, Lily. A smug smile plays on his lips, and Lily looks like she's won the lottery. Below the photo, he typed, "Goodbye, Teresa. I'm leaving you with nothing." I stare at those words, and a faint, chilling smirk tugs at the corner of my mouth. What Victor doesn't know is that 15 minutes before he lugged that old, scuffed suitcase out of our door, while he was fumbling with the zipper and rehearsing his grand escape, I had already made a call that would shatter his carefully crafted plans. It all started a few days ago, when I began to notice the signs of his betrayal. Victor had always been good at keeping his affairs in check, but he couldn't hide the little things. A perfume I didn't recognize lingered on his shirt collar, a perfume that was far too young and trendy for me. And then there was the restaurant receipt stuffed carelessly in his pocket, for a fancy place he'd never take me to. He'd come home late, citing potential clients, but there were never any names or invoices to back it up. I tried to convince myself it was all a coincidence. But deep down, I knew. One evening, while he was in the shower, I reached for his phone. My hand wasn't shaking, it was guided by a certainty deeper than suspicion. The screen was unlocked, and there, waiting for me, were rows and rows of messages with Lily. Photos, explicit comments, and Victor's voice messages, full of crude affection for the young woman. And the words that cut deeper than the infidelity itself, "She's dead weight. Once I drain the accounts, we're gone. She won't see a cent. The business will fold without me anyway." I didn't let my breath quicken or my heart race. I read every word slowly, as if examining evidence I'd always expected. The shock had come long ago, this was just confirmation. The next morning, I drove downtown to the office of Mr. Thompson, our long-time accountant. He'd been with us since the early days of Victor's woodworking business, Victor's Woodworking Company, and had seen us through the good and the bad. When I walked in, he looked at me with concern, his gray eyebrows furrowing. "Teresa, you look pale." "Come in," he said. I sat down across from his desk and quietly placed Victor's phone on the polished wood. Without a tear or a plea for sympathy, I scrolled to the messages and turned the screen towards him. He read in silence, his frown deepening. When he finally leaned back in his chair, his voice was low and angry. "That man is out of his mind. He thinks he can empty the company accounts without consequences?" I met his eyes steadily. "I need your help. Whatever we do must be legal, clean, and precise." He nodded, already pulling folders from his drawer. "Then we start right away." Over the next few hours, we pieced together the evidence. Bank statements showed irregular withdrawals, and there was documentation of unauthorized loans Victor had taken in the company's name. There were also transfers to accounts that Lily had access to, and purchases that had nothing to do with wood, hardware, or tools. Each page revealed another layer of his misconduct, and it was clear that the company couldn't survive this without collapsing. Mr. Thompson worked with a focused determination. "If he's planning to run, you need to protect the company before he burns it to the ground," he said. By late afternoon, he had drafted the paperwork. We went through each document line by line, signatures, notarization, transfer of ownership. By the end of it, I, who had built much of the company's early client base and maintained most of the vendor relationships, would become the sole owner of Victor's Woodworking Company. As I signed my name, my hand didn't tremble. Something inside me shifted, not towards bitterness or fear, but towards a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The pain was still there, but it sharpened into resolve, cold and final. Mr. Thompson gave me a slow, approving nod. "If he leaves the country, everything he thinks he's taking will disappear beneath him. Now, here I am, in my kitchen, after receiving that smug photo. I dial Mr. Thompson's number. He answers immediately. It's done, he tells me. Every transfer is finalized. The accounts are locked. The business is yours. I close my eyes for a moment. Victor had left just in time for his downfall to be complete. 15 years ago, our mornings looked so different. Victor used to sit across from me at this very table, sipping strong coffee and talking about his dreams for the business. His eyes were full of ambition, and his rare but genuine laugh used to draw me in. I thought I had found security in him. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, things changed. The first dismissive remarks were small, a quiet sigh when I offered a suggestion, a smirk when I mispronounced a supplier's name. He'd say, "I'll handle it," whenever I tried to help with orders. None of it seemed malicious on its own, but over time, the belittling became a habit. "You don't understand how this works. You're overthinking again. Just let me deal with the important stuff." He said these things as if they were facts, and his cold, flat tone was enough to shrink me without making a scene. Little by little, I felt myself fading. I became a shadow in my own home, tolerated rather than loved. Affection faded, then respect, and finally, the sense of partnership I once believed in. We stayed together not because we were building a life, but because it was easier than facing the emptiness between us. When Lily came into his life, his cruelty got worse. He'd come home distracted and irritable, treating me with even more disdain. The so-called arguments were just performances where he made sure I knew how lucky I was that he hadn't left yet. The worst moment came in the form of a voicemail I found by accident. I called him to ask if he needed anything from the store. He didn't answer, and a few minutes later, a new voicemail notification popped up. I thought it was him calling back, but instead, I heard laughter. Victor's mocking laughter, a sound I hadn't heard in years, followed by Lily's giggle. Then Victor's voice, clear and cutting, "Teresa. She's hopeless. She couldn't even run a lemonade stand without messing it up." I remembered staring at the phone, my breath caught in my throat. It wasn't that his words surprised me, they just confirmed the truth I'd been trying to ignore. For years, I'd made excuses for him, thinking he was just stressed or tired. But that voicemail was the final straw. My patience fractured quietly, like a crack in ice, a clean break. As I stand in the kitchen, watching the steam rise from my mug, I understand how much of my identity I've surrendered. But something has shifted inside me. It's not anger yet, just a quiet, cold resolve. I know I've started a new chapter, and I'm ready for whatever comes. Just then, my phone buzzes again. It's Mr. Thompson. "Teresa, I just want to remind you. All the business accounts, operating funds, savings, everything related to Victor's woodworking company is legally and cleanly in your name. And the debts? All his. The personal credit lines he opened behind your back, the unauthorized business loans of $180,000, and the additional $120,000 the bank is still looking into. Every cent is tied to him personally, not to you or the company. He'll have to answer for it all." I close my eyes and take a deep breath. Victor has spent years thinking he was untouchable, hidden behind a false sense of authority. But now, the financial mess he created is all his to deal with. After the call, I start to walk through the house, room by room. In the living room, I run my fingers along the back of the couch, a couch he always claimed to have picked out. But I know I was the one who really made the decision. The room feels different now, like it's truly mine. I go into the hallway and stop by the framed photos. Once, these pictures represented a family I tried so hard to hold together. One by one, I take them down and stack them on a chair. I'm not being sentimental today, I'm reclaiming my space. In our bedroom, I open the closet. After Victor left, there's a lot of empty space. The hangers that once held his clothes sway gently, like faint echoes. I don't flinch. Instead, I tidy up my own clothes, making more room for myself. My phone starts buzzing again. It's Victor, over and over. Missed calls, voicemails, texts getting more urgent by the minute. I tap the screen to block, delete, and silence him. I don't need to hear his voice to know what he'll say: panic, confusion, and anger masked as entitlement. I walk to the window and look out at the rain streaking down the glass. I feel no triumph in his downfall, only a steady readiness. I know what I've done, and I know what comes next. Victor will fight back, but those days of me being afraid of his outbursts are over. I ended them with a signature and a single, well-timed phone call. I gather a stack of trash bags from the pantry and carry them into the bedroom. I open Victor's side of the closet. His shirts, never hung properly, his scuffed shoes, and the overpriced belts he loved. I don't feel sadness or nostalgia. Instead, I methodically start packing them away. Each item I put in the bag is like a small piece of the life I no longer want. As I do this, I feel an invisible weight lifting off me. Next, I go to the glass cabinet in the hallway. It's filled with photos from vacations, anniversaries, and birthdays. But the memories behind those smiling images are different from what they seem. They're full of forced smiles and Victor's sharp comments. I open the cabinet, and the hinges creak softly. I take out the first frame. There's a younger me, full of hope. Victor is beside me, his arm around my shoulder, but I can still feel the weight of his judgment from that moment. One by one, I remove the photos. Some I tear in half, others I just place face down in a pile. I don't keep any of them. Finally, I head to Victor's office. He always called it his place, saying he needed a space in the house that was just his. But in reality, I was the one who did a lot of the work in the business. The room smells stale, of old coffee and sawdust, and there's a faint sour smell from neglect. Stacks of papers are everywhere, and receipts are overflowing from a bin. I open the window, and the cold breeze from outside washes over me. It clears the stuffy air in the room. I walk over to the desk. His planner is open, filled with folded notes and scribbled entries. I flip through it and find receipts from restaurants I've never been to, meeting notes that hint at unfinished deals, and transactions that raise more questions than answers. Near the back, I find something important, a major client meeting circled in red ink, scheduled for tomorrow. This is a partnership that Victor's woodworking company needs to secure to recover from the damage he's caused. If Victor were still here, he'd walk into that meeting with false confidence. But now, he's thousands of miles away, in a mess of his own making, and I'm the owner of the company he tried to destroy. I close the planner gently. I've made my decision, I'm going to that meeting. I reach for my phone and find the number of Mr. Jenkins, the owner of Jenkins Construction, one of our biggest clients. His company had almost severed ties with us because of Victor's unreliability. The line rings twice. Jenkins speaking, his voice is brisk and no nonsense. Good morning, Mr. Jenkins, I say, my voice calm but firm. This is Teresa. I'm calling about our scheduled meeting tomorrow. There's a short pause on his end. Teresa, to be honest, I didn't think that meeting would still be on. Victor has been so unpredictable lately. Yes, I'm aware, I reply simply. He won't be attending. I will. His tone sharpens. You? Yes, I say, each word clear. As of this morning, I'm the sole owner of Victor's woodworking company. All business operations, finances, and contracts are under my authority now. There's a long silence. I can imagine him sitting back in his chair, processing what I've said. Finally, he lets out a long sigh. Well, I can't say I'm unhappy to hear that. Victor wasn't reliable anymore. We liked your work, your craftsmanship and consistency, but every time we dealt with him, he'd either be late or ask for another advance. We were thinking of pulling out our contract. I feel a sting, not because it's a surprise, but because it confirms just how much damage Victor has done. But there's also a warm, steady feeling inside me. You won't have that problem with me, I say. The company will operate with transparency and professionalism. The meeting is still on, and we'll move forward with the work we've agreed on. He sounds cautious but hopeful. Are you handling the transition on your own? Yes, and it's already underway, I reply. Well, then, Teresa, I look forward to meeting you tomorrow. It'll be nice to talk to someone who actually cares about the business. Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. I appreciate your trust. After the call ends, I stand still for a moment, letting the reality sink in. The power shift is real, and it's going to have consequences. But for the first time in years, I feel a faint, steady pulse of pride and a sense of self-worth. I'm not just saving the company, I'm reclaiming it. As evening approaches, I finish cleaning the house. My daughter, Ava, arrives just as I'm putting the last box away. She's been crying, her eyes red and swollen. Mom, what's going on? Dad called me and said you stole everything from him, that you've lost your mind. I sit her down and gently say, Ava, your father isn't telling you the truth. He's been unfaithful to me for a long time, with Lily. He planned to take money from the business and leave the country with her. I found the messages, the plans he made. He not only betrayed our marriage but also financially sabotaged the business. He took out loans in the company's name, ran it into debt, and intended to disappear. Ava's breathing quickens, and then it's not confusion but anger that shows on her face. So, when he said you were the one ruining everything, he was trying to cover up what he did. Yes, I answer. He's scared because his actions finally have consequences. Ava's voice is full of determination. How dare he? Mom, I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. We spend the rest of the evening together, talking, cleaning, and starting to rebuild our lives. The next morning, I wake up with a feeling of rest I haven't had in years. My body feels lighter, and my mind is clear. A courier arrives with documents from Mr. Thompson, confirming the legal transfer of the business and the accounts. I sign the papers with confidence, knowing that a new chapter in my life has truly begun. I look out at the city of Portland, with its soft drizzle and the lights just starting to flicker on. The future, once so uncertain, now seems full of possibility. I'm no longer living in the shadow of someone else's choices. I'm Teresa, and I'm standing firmly in my own life.